What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Dealing the Cards podcast. I'm Sandy. This is Andrew. We are missing Josh again today, but we'll have him back soon. We might be getting, Kareem might be jumping on today. Who knows? We'll see. But we're here to just talk about the fact that the Cardinals don't want to play in October. They really don't. I mean, I think it's hilarious. You might want to watch them in October, but they do not want to play in October. This is the second time now where they find themselves back in the playoff race, and they respond just like they did the first time by losing 5 consecutive games, 4 of which came after blown leads, multiple of those in extra innings. It's all bad. It all sucks. If you thought the Mariners series was bad, that game 2 against Milwaukee was even worse. Blew a 6-1 lead. Absolutely inexcusable. They win today. Does it matter? Who knows? Somehow they're still only 4 games back, but we've got a lot to talk about today, obviously. So I guess let's just get right to it. Andrew, what a frustrating series in Milwaukee. Is there any word to even describe the Cardinals with other than frustrating these days? I just feel like that's all I feel when I turn the games on. It's all I feel when I finish watching the game. Where are you with this ball club right now?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we talked about the Mariners series a lot last time, so I'm going to try to limit the amount of conversation we have on that. Obviously, that was just brutal. You led in all 3 games and you lost all 3 games, but this Brewers series, you go in pretty deflated. You're still 4 games back of the wild card. You end the series 4 games back of the wild card because the Mets did finally win a game today. So good for them, I guess. But the first game of the series, you kind of were just lost at the beginning. Had a couple bad defensive plays. And then, with Mason Winn out, Victor Scott hasn't been in the lineup as much. I know they're trying to keep him protected because he's coming back from injury. Donovan, same thing. He didn't play today. And today's lineup was absolutely horrible. You looked 1 through 9, Newt Herrera, Burleson, that's fine, whatever. And then Sajasi batting cleanup. Gorman, Paez, Walker, Fermin, and Church. So, pretty bad. But somehow they did still manage to get the win today, even though, kind of looked like they were trying to lose at certain points in like the 8th and 9th inning. But, game 2 of the series is obviously the one that hurts the most. You're up 6-1 and you just threw it away. I don't even know what to say. You were up 3 runs in the 9th inning. Riley O'Brien comes in to shut the door. Pretty sloppy, and, that'll happen occasionally, but it's just like really brutal to finish your losing streak like that, especially when the Mets have just been in free fall. You look at the stretch the Cardinals have had the last 6 games against, the Brewers and the Mariners. They won today. It was a good win. They probably should have had more. They've been playing some pretty sloppy baseball defensively, base running wise. For me, just like running home on that, I don't really know what they were doing. Quintana couldn't really find the zone. I'm not really sure why you're trying to steal a run with 2 chances to score with Newt and Herrera coming up, who are probably 2 of your best hitters in the lineup. Like, you looked at this lineup and it's like, I don't know why you did that. It's some things that just don't make a lot of sense to me. I don't really know what we're supposed to do with that, but if the Cardinals had just gone 3-2 in those 5 games against the Mariners and the Brewers, they would be in a playoff spot right now, which is kind of crazy because we wrote them off like a week ago. And that's really not that crazy to think that, they should have won yesterday. That's for sure. And then if they'd just taken 2 out of 3 from the Mariners, they'd be in a playoff spot right now, which is really something I didn't think we would be even saying. Like, we were probably, well, now at this point, we're going to be saying, like, maybe looking back at this stretch, but if they continue to be like within striking distance, not even striking distance, within like 4 to 5 games of the Mets or whoever ends up with that last wildcard spot, we're going to look back at this stretch and wonder what could have happened. And that's kind of crazy because we wrote them off like a couple weeks ago. But the National League wildcard race has just been such a mess, and the teams have been playing so bad that, like, I don't really know. I don't really know what to make of it.
100%. Yeah, we got to take stock of where they are right now. I mean, if you pull up the standings and look at it, it's pretty crazy. The Cardinals with, I don't know, roughly 10 games left in the season, a few more, like 12 games or something, right? There's not a lot of time left. And I think they probably are out of it now after losing 5 straight. We've also said that a bunch of times at this point. So, but if you look at where they are right now, okay, you're 4 games back. The Mets won today, but you are a game and a half behind Arizona. You're 2 games behind Cincinnati. You're 3 games behind the Giants and 4 behind the Mets. The Padres have played well enough to distance themselves from the rest of the race. They're not in it anymore. They are, secured in the playoffs. But the fact is, there are 2 things that stick out to me here. Number one, you're right. If the Cardinals had just been like mediocre in this stretch, we'd be talking about a team that was in a playoff spot or at least better positioned. And that brings me to number 2, which I think is the more important thing. You can say 4 games against a team like the Mets that's in free fall isn't a huge deal, but 4 games is a huge deal when there are 3 other teams between you and the Mets. And that's the real problem. And that's why the Cardinals are out of it. It's because they can't leapfrog all of these teams, right? Like I'm pretty sure some of these teams are going to play each other. I'm sure the Diamondbacks and Giants might match up against one another, right? So that's going to cause issues for the Cardinals. Because
actually, if you look at the Cardinals schedule, they have a series against the Giants and a series against the Reds. So they were actually very much in control of their fate. Also, if they had just gone 3-2, the Reds and Giants and Diamondbacks didn't play well enough to take.
Yeah, they've all been losing. So. They've all been losing. I think the Giants have actually been okay. Yeah, they're 6-4 in their last 10. Which is like,
yeah, but the Cardinals have another series against them. They currently own the tiebreaker. They played well against them last time. It's just they did this to themselves. And
they've definitely done this.
I don't really think. Yeah, I mean, I don't think we need to be talking about this for much longer. We should get into actually the main topic of our stream because I feel like this is a much bigger problem. We've spent too much time complaining, honestly, about a team that's not good and a team that if they did manage to sneak in the playoffs. Well, first of all, if they had gone 3-2 in those 5 games, I think they need to hold it. There's going to be a bunch of
guaranteed that you make the playoffs,
and they have a really tough stretch coming up against the Brewers again, and the Reds, and the Giants, and the Cubs. So there's still very much room for them to fall apart. I just think falling apart this quickly and not really giving much of a fight at all is kind of inexcusable. But we've talked about this to death, and this is not.
Yeah, they're thin. They're not a good roster. Like the players on this team are not as good as the players on other teams, and that's what it really comes down to. People can blame whoever they want, but the players on the team have not. One, they haven't played as well as they should, which I feel like kind of segues into our actual topic for today. But 2, they haven't lived up to the moment. They haven't done what they need to do in big spots. Guys have to come through. You can't go 2 for 26 with runners in scoring position. You lose games by doing that. It's terrible. So, we can get into the real topic. Andrew, if you want to introduce it, and then we can.
Yeah, before we do that, we should thank our sponsors real quick. So we just get that out of the way. First off, I want to thank 314 Sports Cards and Collectibles, as always, presenting sponsor of the show, located at 9640 Olive Boulevard in Olivet. They're open from 10 to 6 Monday through Friday and 10 to 4 on Saturdays and Sundays. They buy, sell, and trade all sports cards and Pokemon cards, and they have the newest selection of packs, boxes, and single cards of local players and stars from around the league. I don't know if we should keep teasing it, but they might have some cool products of ours coming pretty soon as well. So definitely go check them out. Show us what you pull from over there. Show us what you get. They got some really cool cards in there. And then we'll play a message from Josh, who's not on the IL. He just has a bit of a knee problem, but from Underdog Sports.
The Deal on the Cards podcast is proud to be partnered with Underdog Sports, our favorite place to play fantasy games. You're now eligible to play in Illinois, Missouri, Indiana, and 37 other U.S. states. You got to check out Pick'em. It's so easy to play. You just pick 2 to 8 stats of your favorite players and choose whether they'll go higher or lower. You can win 20 times your money by going 5 for 5. If that sounds like fun, sign up with our promo code CARDS to claim your first free pick plus first-time deposit offer up to $1,000 in bonus cash. We can't wait to see your entries.
Yeah, but basically our topic for this stream, the Cardinals have just 2 weeks of baseball left to play. So the goal of the season was to give the young players some runway, try to see what the Cardinals have got. Nolan Gorman, Jordan Walker, no audio. I think our audio is working.
Yeah, I think it's working for me.
Yeah, I think we're good.
Seems like we're good.
So, yeah, anyway, sorry. But basically, the point of the season was to see what the Cardinals had in their young players. That includes guys like Lars Nootbaar, Ivan Herrera, Alec Burleson, Brendan Donovan, Jordan Walker, Nolan Gorman, Victor Scott. Did the Cardinals fail that? Because I feel like a lot of the guys on that list have kind of underperformed. Mason Winn also, obviously, but I felt like he was probably the lowest or the highest floor out of all the guys that we just named. Yeah. Have the Cardinals failed the youth movement that they promised at the start of the year? Did they do enough? Do they have enough young guys to go moving forward into 2026? Or is this going to take longer than we think? And we're going to have another repeat in 2026 where we're going to be trying out young guys. Maybe some of these guys get traded. What do you think about that?
I mean, I think we can go player by player and just have a verdict for whether they failed or, whether they passed. I think that'd be a good way to structure this. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I think before we jump into this, my sinking feeling is in a lot of ways, the Cardinals failed this year in that sense, not just because there are guys that we really still don't know. Like we had this whole year and we didn't even start looking at Michael McGreevy until, I don't know, July. And it's like, man, I wish I could have seen some more of Michael McGreevy, or we didn't get answers on some guys, but also because the answers we got on some guys are not answers that we're going to like. And I think that's worth due. Or at least there's less certainty moving forward for a guy like Lars Nootbaar than there was coming into the year. So I guess we can just start. Who do you want to start with? And then we can work our way through. I know there's been a lot of discussion in our chat about this and, on Twitter about some of these guys. So we can just go down the list, I guess. So who would you say we should start with first? You want to go in order of how the Cardinals should have prioritized them this year?
Yeah, I guess we just start at the very top because we talk about him all the time.
Is that Jordan Walker?
Yeah.
The runway guy of 2025, I would say, right? And I mean, I don't know. When you look at Jordan Walker's season, the first word that comes to mind is disappointing, obviously. But the next word—
I don't even know if you can say that. I feel like it's worse.
Yeah, it's just awful, abysmal, terrible. But I mean, the next thing that comes to mind is, look, you had presumably a whole year of Walker where he was healthy, unless he's dealing something that we don't know. And you only got 325 at bats out of the guy. He hit 218, 271 on base. He only hit 5 homers. That's less than Pedro Pages hit by a good amount, 64 OPS plus. So I feel like the answers you got, if you just look at that, are Walker's not a full-time player. He's not a regular. He's not in the plans moving forward. He's terrible. But then there's the other side of it, which is Walker still has more raw talent than almost anybody the Cardinals have on the roster right now. Walker and the interview we heard from Brant Brown and some other guys on the staff where it's like, hey, it's a preparation issue, right? And that kind of leads me to believe, well, maybe we don't know. Maybe we need to see again next year, see what it looks like. And at the end of the day, every organization is going to hate having given up on a guy that ranked number 1 in all of baseball at one point, right? Even though it was sort of because there were graduations and they hadn't re-ranked yet, other guys that have occupied that top spot in recent years include Gunnar Henderson, Adley Rutschman, Bobby Witt, right? Even a guy like an Alvarez with the Mets, who's had a much better major league career to this point than Jordan Walker has. So it's obviously very challenging to see that, very frustrating. So I think I will say you got some certainty, and I think the certainty is that he sucks right now, but also there's still uncertainty. And so I think that, unfortunately for the Cardinals, you're going to have to run this back to an extent next year. So I think Jordan Walker, I would be remanding the case and saying they're going to have to try this again. Where are you on that, Andrew?
Yeah, I mean, it's just been so bad, and there's been no improvement throughout the year. We were always saying, we need to be patient with these guys. We need to see what they have. And part of this whole runway season is that you need to give these guys time and a pressure-free environment to grow and develop. And, it's helped a lot of organizations do that. I think the Brewers have done that particularly well with guys like Churio, who started off last season really, really badly. But they gave him that extension and, they believed in him and they let him stick at the major league level, even though they were trying to compete for a playoff spot at the same time. And, they won the division, and then Churio got better and he became a key part of that roster and lineup.
Yeah.
And we've been waiting on a lot of these players to do that. And it seems like for the most part, the guys that have started out hot have continued to be pretty good throughout the season. And the guys that have struggled, with the exception of like Nolan Gorman, although he has been struggling big time as of late, have continued to not be very good. And Jordan Walker, I feel like, has had moments where, like, I think honestly he's gotten worse. And I think that you've seen the approach just continue to regress into something where he's a free swinger. And even when he swings at pitches that are in the zone, he doesn't hit them. And when he does hit them, it's poor contact quality, right? Like, hits the ball really hard and you just like can't optimize the launch angles. So it's just poor quality of contact all around. And it's just not a viable player that you can develop. And if that's because that he's not, receptive to coaching or receptive to anything that the Cardinals are trying to get him to do, he needs to own that. And I don't think there's any time this season to fix it. I think it's already a lost season for him. Like, there's 2 weeks left. There's almost nothing he can do to prove us that he's going to be the starting right fielder next year. He's a complete liability on both sides of the ball. Like, he can't even give you good defense when you ask for it.
Yeah.
Negative 1.2 F4 on the season.
Negative 1.7 B WAR. It's really bad.
Yeah, just absolutely terrible. Had a 116 WRC plus in 2023. That dropped to a 72 WRC plus last year, and now it's at 64, which is just unplayably bad. The defense is bad. ISO of 089. That's
bad.
Really just terrible. Yeah. So even when he does put the ball in play, it's mostly singles.
So where are you on the state? Like, what should they do? Like, did they get enough info, do you think, or no?
Well, I think you have to start Jordan Walker at AAA next year, because we've also reached a point where, because they didn't trade Nolan Arenado, because like some of these other guys need playing time, with the young guys that are coming up, there's really not any room for Jordan Walker to be doing this anymore, right? Like, Thomas Ajayce has proven more to me than there is to Jordan Walker. And I don't know if that's like a failure on the Cardinals' part, where, like we said at the beginning of the season, we just want to know who these guys are. Like, if Jordan Walker is bad, then we want to know that. And if Jordan Walker is good, we also want to know that. And I think for the most part, we've learned what we needed to learn about him. Is he a complete lost cause? I don't think so. Like, I think there's things that he can do to figure it out. And I think we've talked about that a lot. Like, we've hammered home that, if he can just make the changes the coaching wants him to make, and then if we try that out, maybe that is a failure that we didn't really get to see that happen. But that's not really a failure on the organization. That's a failure on Jordan Walker for not doing it. If all of this is correct and if all this is true, I don't think that we can blame the Cardinals, because they've run him out there a lot, right? He has gotten, 350 plate appearances.
Yeah. He's got 325 at bat.
And he's also spent a lot of time on the IL. So, like, it's not because, they're not playing him. And part of it is they weren't playing him for a time, and people were getting upset about that. But, like, genuinely, I don't know what you want to do with a guy who's been this bad in a pretty large sample.
I mean, he's been awful, right? Like, I think the thing that people just need to know is he's not just bad. Like, it's really, really bad. It's detrimental to your team's ability to win games to have Jordan Walker in the field and in the lineup. So, I think you made a great point that there are two dimensions to this, right? One is, how did the organization do well? And I think the verdict for the organization with treatment of Jordan Walker this year is, like, they did their job. They got him out there. They played him as much as they possibly could this year. So, some might say too much. If you really thought the Cardinals could make the playoffs this year, Jordan Walker's a big reason they didn't. He's a big reason they didn't make the playoffs, or a big reason they won't, right? Like, arguably the worst position player the Cardinals fielded this year. That's a big deal.
Definitely the worst position player. Yeah. It's not even particularly close.
Yeah, I mean, it's significantly worse, right? So that's a big deal. But in terms of how it went for the player, right, I think we would both say the verdict is Walker didn't do enough. He didn't show me anything this year. And at this point, I think he enters the year the way Nolan Gorman entered this year, which is, you've got to prove it to me before I give you any opportunity. And you will start Gorman didn't start in AAA, but Walker should start in AAA next year. and he's not going to be on the big league club until he proves that that's something he's worthy of. Because right now, there's just no good reason to have him on the big league club. He's so bad you can't play him, and if he sits on the bench, people complain, and you're not getting him the chance to actually develop. So you're going to see what you get from him next year. All right, moving on. I think the next guy here in terms of importance got to be Nolan Gorman, right? Yeah. Entering the year, I think he and Walker were really packaged together as fans, and they've got a lot in common, right? You think back to Nolan Gorman was drafted out of high school, big power type. He was a mainstay in top 100 lists. He was the Cardinals' #1 overall prospect when he debuted. Very similar to Walker, both viewed as offense first prospects. Both viewed as guys with real power upside that could be, 30 home run hitters. People talked about Gorman as a 40 home run hitter at one point, a guy with tremendous power at second base too, which is a position that, at least right now, there's not a ton of great second basemen out there. So it seemed like a really big deal to have this guy that you could stick there. How's it been, right? If you look at Nolan Gorman this year, the Cardinals got 323 at-bats, so very similar sample size to Walker. But in those at-bats, Gorman hit 14 bombs. He's got an OPS of 690, so that's just south of league average. He's 94 OPS plus, so 6% below league average, but that is weighed down by a brutal cold stretch that he's been going through for the last, 2 or 3 weeks. I think where I am right now, look, I'd say the organization handled it well. Gorman earned plate appearances. He earned playing time at some point in June. He became a mainstay in the regular lineup and was really good for 2 months, OPSing well over 800 for a while. But I think that we're seeing from Gorman's side, like, this guy is what he is at this point. He's really streaky. He's going to give you weeks where he's the best hitter in baseball, and he's going to give you weeks where, it's a lot of pop outs, it's a lot of ground outs, and it's a lot of strikeouts. And that's what you're in right now. And so when you see that, it's brutal. I think that's where I am with Gorman, though, right? A couple positive things, like the strikeout rate's down from last year. It's not worse in baseball. It's still high, though. He still swings and misses a lot. There's always going to be swing and miss in his game. But at the same time, like, moving forward, look, Gorman is a fine placeholder. He's not expensive. He's not going to be expensive in arbitration either. And if the Cardinals want to just be middling again next year, Gorman's a great guy to just hold down the fort and play a lot of games at second base. If you gave him a whole year, he could have gotten up near 30 home runs this year. There are bats like that in today's game that make it work. Like, think about the worst season Spencer Torkelson had, where he hit 30 bombs. Like, that's the offense that Nolan Gorman can give you, which it's going to be fun sometimes, and other times it's going to be frustrating. So that's my verdict. He's going to be here next year, I think. He's earned it enough, I guess. He's fine. Where are you, Andrew?
Yeah, I think a lot of the numbers are down just because he was so terrible in, like, April, May. I'm trying to pull up the splits here, but it just was not good at all for Nolan Gorman to start the season. You see some of these are Fangraphs isn't as user friendly, but you look at some of the, like, OPS numbers. Let's see, 76 WRC plus March, April, 45 WRC plus in May, and he's at a 36 WRC plus September. So, not great so far, but September isn't over yet. He can still turn that around, but he just has months where can't hit the ball. June was really good for him. July and August were around league average for him, so he's okay. But I feel like he has more upside than he's shown that he has the upside. Like, he's not just a complete liability like he was last year. I think he can also have those stretches that give him the WRC plus higher. But I think if you remove the 2 months at the start of the season where clearly he was, like, working on his swing, trying to take in a lot of the things that coaching was trying to give him, because his approach last year and his approach this year, his swing last year and his swing this year, unlike Jordan Walker, it was completely different. I think he was trying to make those adjustments. Second half WRC plus is 83, probably because of just how bad that last month was. And
yeah, he's been off.
WRC plus is 101 because of that June. That was really good. But, am I a little bit disappointed? Do I think he could have done better than that? Probably, yeah. I do think he could have done better. But overall, like, at least we know that Gorman is like a playable player. He's not the Kyle Schwarber that people have drawn comparisons to. But, he could be like a Chris Davis kind of player, Chris Davis from the A's.
Sure.
But like, is that valuable? Like a Joey Gallo in like some of his weaker years where he's still hitting homers, but not hitting for a lot of average. Although Joey Gallo could play defense, he could give you value there.
Yeah.
I don't really know. Like, I think
defense is so weird. He's really bad at third base. Like, we know that. It's
but that's probably where he's going to stick. I don't think he's going to stick anywhere else.
No. Yeah.
Because who's going to play third? Like JJ, I don't think JJ is going to play third.
I think JJ should play third. Or like they could put Sajazi at third if they want to give him run.
Yeah. But then, like, I don't know. I don't think that Gorman is a guy you move on from because I don't think he really has much value, and he does give you the homer potential that, not a lot of guys on this team can give you. He hasn't hit a lot this year, like 14 isn't that many, but, he does have that in his profile where, I just don't think you can give up on somebody like that for pretty much not enough value. If Heim can swing a trade that, he really likes, get some pieces back that he really likes, I don't think I'm completely opposed to it anymore. But, you definitely don't want to give up on a guy like that for nothing.
Yeah.
But then,
I think you're right. I think the big thing with Gorman is it's like he's not a big enough liability to just like say you're not on the team anymore, right? Where like Walker might land. But at the same time, you're right. Like there's not enough value inherently. Well, just Gorman has less value right now than almost anybody else would have on the trade market. Where like a Lars Nootbaar, I think can still get you something. I think an Alec Burleson might really get you something. I don't think Nolan Gorman gets you much of anything right now, which is why to me he's he's a very replacement level player. That's the production he's going to put out is going to be pretty close to replacement level, and he's going to be really cheap, and he's going to give you some qualities that aren't necessarily replacement level, right? Like the production might be replacement level, but he gets there in a more interesting way by hitting some home runs, having some power in his game that can be helpful to a team. So I think I'm fine with him sticking around, and there's a chance he's in the lineup next year. And I think he deserves it partially because of how bad everyone else has been, right? And how nobody else has really like seized it necessarily. And also because there's so many guys on this team that have so many injury concerns, which, I mean, we might get to that today. We might not. But the Cardinals need depth. They need depth big time. You look how thin this roster is right now. So yeah, after those two, there's definitely a drop off that they were their own tier coming into the season, right? In terms of like the runway players, they were kind of the poster boys for it. I would say after them, there are multiple ways we could go. We could just go by who the organization thought was most important. We could go by who we think had the most important year for them. I think we could go with Winn next because the organization definitely sees him as like the guy in this group. Him and Herrera. So we'll go Winn and Herrera next. But I think for Winn, largely this year, it's a successful year. He took a really big step forward on defense. Mason Winn went from a good defensive shortstop to being like the best defensive shortstop in all of baseball. He definitely should win the Gold Glove this year, in my opinion. I mean, I don't think it should be close. I know Nick Allen's had a really good year with the Braves. I think Winn's been better. I think Winn's best moments are flashier. I think they're more exciting. The arm, Winn's unbelievable. He's really, really fun to watch out there. And I know offensive numbers don't count at all in Gold Glove voting, but golly, Allen is such a liability at the plate. And I know Winn hasn't been great, especially since the break, but he hovered around like a 105 WRC plus before his injury. He was even better than that at some points. So yeah, I know that doesn't really factor in, but it just makes me dislike Nick Allen even more and dislike his case even more. I think it should be Winn's. But yeah, I would say overall a successful year for Winn. Like I said, huge step forward on defense. He is a super valuable player. He racks up value. Also really big because I know Winn's injured right now, but he played through that injury. Winn played through a lot of pain earlier this year as well. I think he really cemented himself, in my opinion, as a guy that can play every day. Winn played every day pretty much this year. The Cardinals didn't have anybody else they felt comfortable running out there at short for large portions of the year, and that's their fault for being so thin. But Winn really took it on the chin, and he was a champ all year. He was a professional. He was out there every day, super consistent guy. And until the injury was a positive factor on offense as well. And I know the injury has sapped his numbers, but I think we should take that into account. That's something it's an excuse that like Walker and Gorman don't get to use. And Winn's also still been like miles better offensively than Jordan Walker. So I would say it's a success. I'm happy about Winn, and I think the Cardinals should extend him. I'll be so real. Where are you on Winn?
I mean, I think that's a given. But yeah, Winn, I don't really want to take into account the offensive numbers like past the injury. I don't really know when the injury happened. I think it was like second half, like around then. So you could probably just look at his first half splits, to be honest. And, you know, he's done enough in his first year and his second year to show me that, like, it doesn't really matter as long as he's around a league average hitter. He's going to provide you so much value at shortstop. He's probably the best defensive shortstop in all of baseball right now. A successful year for Mason Winn. I don't really want to look into the fact that he really fell off in the second half. The injury really had a lot to do with that. He had a 695 OPS in the first half, 97 WRC plus, a little bit down from last year, but, you know,
he had
provided some pretty good value.
He was hot coming out of the break. So, like, he was well above league average before the injury. He's been good this year.
Yeah. So not really too worried about Mason Winn's offensive numbers. I do think there's a lot more potential in that bat. I think, you know, he could definitely take steps forward next season, but the defense alone is already so valuable that you can afford to not have him be the best hitter on the Cardinals. Do I think he's the future leadoff hitter like he was kind of at the start of the season and last year? No, I don't think he gets on base enough. I don't think he has that much of a threatening like presence in the box because, you know, the power potential isn't quite where you want it to be. He only hit 9 homers this year, which is also down from where he was at last season. But again, just being hurt that entire time definitely didn't help with that. But yeah, I'm excited for Mason Winn. I think we're starting to get more into the more positive side of this. But also, like, I do think going into the season, he's probably the player that I was least worried about because you just saw that last year and you saw how low or how high the floor was with Mason Winn, where you're not really worried about what you get offensively as long as he doesn't turn into like a Siani type player, which he didn't. Then he's going to be a good player for you, and you should stick with him at shortstop. So, yeah, there's Mason Winn.
Yeah, extend this man. I agree. He's like the least problematic player that the Cardinals have right now, except for this guy, Ivan Herrera, right? Not enough can be said about him.
No, I do think there actually are some things with him, but we can get into that.
Well, we'll talk about it. But the one thing is, Ivan Herrera has established himself as the best hitter in St. Louis. I mean, he's been awesome this year. He's got a 136 OPS plus, like a 140 WRC plus, right in that range. So, you know, 35 to 40% above league average. Currently rocking an 835 OPS, and he is on an absolute heater right now. His rolling xWOB over his last 100 plate appearances. So basically, how good is the contact he's making? It is about 150 points above league average right now. He's rocking a 455. For the season, that would put him in almost Aaron Judge territory. He's in the 91st percentile in the season with a 381. That's outstanding. Expected batting average, he's in the 92nd percentile. Expected slug, 85th percentile. By pretty much all accounts, this is a really good hitter. This is a guy that hits the ball really hard. He's elevating. He's putting the ball in the air, which is awesome. He's doing real damage, and he's doing it without pulling the ball a ton. So if Ivan Herrera pulls the ball more next year, watch out. This is a guy that could be a top 15 hitter in all of baseball. He's been unbelievable. I mean, I'm not sure what else I can say about the guy, but he's just been awesome. The spray chart's great. He's hitting the ball all over the place, but he's hit for a ton of power this year. He's got 16 home runs, and he's done it all in about 340 at-bats, which leads me to say, look, if Ivan Herrera could stay healthy, if he had a full season, this is also a guy that you're talking about potential 30 homer power. And he's getting there in a much more exciting way than Nolan Gorman. He's getting to 30 home runs and he's drawing some walks. He's getting to 30 home runs and he's driving in a ton of runs. He's getting to 30 home runs and he's hitting near 300. That's a complete bat. That's a guy who really does have a 50th, 60th percentile outcome in the 140 WRC plus range. He is a true all-star caliber bat. I think he passed with flying colors this year for me, and I think the way the Cardinals have handled him, on the other hand, a little more interesting. Andrew, I would love to hear your opinion on that.
Yeah, I mean, Ivan Herrera, there's really nothing to say about his on-the-field performance. He's got a higher OPS than I was looking at. Everybody on the Brewers who, he has not been the problem at all. He had a bit of a cold stretch.
The hardest thing the problem.
Yeah, to be honest, I think that might have been due to the injury. Like, he came back from the second injury and he kind of wasn't the same, and now he's kind of kicked into another gear again. So I don't really know if we should even look that much into that cold stretch. He's been absolutely amazing throughout this month. And
if you want to talk about cold stretch from Herrera, right?
Yeah.
Like, the worst he's been at any point in time in his last 250 plate appearances on a rolling basis. It's like mid-August.
Yeah.
He was down like just above league average. That is better than any mark in Walker's season this year.
Yeah, for sure. I don't. Walker's season is something that we're going to have conversations about.
Walker's red hot. Just want to put that out there.
Yeah, I mean, we need to have more conversations about what the Cardinals should do with Walker probably throughout this offseason. Honestly, we've talked a lot about it, so I'm frustrated. I'm sure the viewers are frustrated as well with everything that's going on with Walker. But he has a 138 WRC plus. Really, throughout his career, hasn't shown anything that he's not just a great hitter. It's just that where does he play? He's primarily been the Cardinals DH throughout the entire season. Even though, he is primarily a catcher, he was kind of seen as that player that was going to replace Yachty after he retired. And it didn't really work out. He still wasn't quite ready in 2023. So they brought in Contreras for that. And then Contreras isn't even catching anymore. So, whatever. But yeah, Herrera does have a chance to get to 20 homers this season, despite missing a lot of the season due to injury. He's had a lot of time on the IL and, 395 plate appearances. He probably isn't going to turn into, that 40 homer guy that we're looking for, the Cardinals to develop their first star and who knows how long. But, I could definitely see him reaching 30 homer potential next year. I think that's a step that he can take. And I think this is a guy that you just have to pencil into your lineup next year. Like, you write, actually not even pencil in, write it in pen. Ivan Herrera will be in the lineup. He'll be a middle of the order bat or like batting second like he is right now. I just don't know where he's going to play. And that's what scares me a little bit with Herrera, because you have another guy on this list that we're going to talk about in a second who, Sandy wasn't very high on, but a lot of Cardinals fans were high on, and he ended up having a good year. So there you go, Sandy.
I'm glad.
But also kind of a DH type player. And, if Walker ends up turning into anything at this point, like, it's been how many years with Jordan Walker? Oh, he's an athletic guy. Oh, he'll figure it out in right.
I mean, I was one of those people. I said
he's not going to be a good defender. Okay, like, if he was ever going to become a good defender, I feel like that's so much easier than, the approach issues that he has at the plate, right? Because at some point you'll figure out your routes, but I don't think he's going to. I just don't think he's going to become a good defender. So if Walker turns into anything, it'll be with the bat. So he might also be a DH type player too. Can Herrera stick in left field? I don't know. They tried it. I don't think it went particularly well. Like, he hasn't started in left field in a while.
Yeah, I don't know why they did that. He got hurt, or like, he didn't get hurt, but he like
twisted. But that was like when he was also like really bad. Like, he was playing pretty bad. And that was part of that stretch was when they were trying him out on the outfield. Maybe that's part of the reason he was struggling. If they want to try that in the offseason, I guess they could go for it. But, as a catcher, you have the greatest defensive catcher throwing out base runners all time in your organization. He wants to help. He was in the dugout. Like, if he can pour into Herrera at all and try that, like, just give it a shot. I don't understand it. Pius isn't that good of a defender. I know Crooks is a good defender, but he hasn't particularly impressed me offensively. I don't know if that's going to change. Like, sure, if you want to try Crooks next season, I think he has more upside than Pages does. Pages is just a really painful at bat to watch a lot of the time. It's like he was hot for a couple weeks, and now it's been not great again with him. I haven't heard Chip or Brad talk about how he's one dotting it over the last 2 or 3 weeks in a while. But I don't get what you have one of the best hitters in the National League at DH, and he can just catch. He can also catch. And is it good? Not really. Like, you're going to give up a lot of stolen bases. But if you're either going to pivot to Herrera in the outfield, if you're going to work on that this offseason, or if you're going to work on his arm and try to get him, because, even as an outfielder, you have to have a good arm. Like, he can't have a bad arm in left field, and he already knows how to catch. His blocking is fine. If you can get him to do that, I think that would be a huge win. And if he can develop into that for next season, I think that's something you really hammer home and you really try to go for next season, because that would really elevate it. I think the one thing keeping Herrera from being like, oh, this is a huge win, he's turned into a big star, is that he just doesn't have a position. And that's what frustrates me a little bit. And yeah, part of that is he can't throw the baseball. He has a really weak arm. But part of that is also just, the Cardinals haven't really let him try. Ever since he's come back from the injury, they haven't put him behind the plate. He hasn't caught a single game since, like, I don't know, May or June. I don't know. I don't even remember when the last time it was.
I think it's all about the fact that the Cardinals believe putting Ivan Herrera behind the plate does not keep him healthy. And at the end of the day, look, if he's
I understand that. Yeah.
But if he's the best bat you have, and you're sure that that catching is contributing to these lower body injuries, which he had 2 this year, and he missed multiple months. Like, you can't win without Ivan Herrera right now if you're the Cardinals. He's clearly the best bat you have. He's the best bat you have moving forward. He was the best bat you had this year. He's the only guy. I mean, I look at this team right now, and I'm no longer moved by Jordan Walker. I'm no longer moved by Nolan Gorman's, actual ceiling. I look at them and I say, he's the only guy on this team that's a potential 145 to 150 WRC plus bat. Wilson Contreras is awesome, but he's older, and Wilson Contreras these days is more of a 130 guy. That's really good for you. That's still really good.
Yeah.
Alec Burleson, a 130 would be great. That'd be a great season for him. He's kind of hung around there at times this year. He's had a really good year. Nobody on this team has the potential that Ivan Herrera does. Nobody's hitting the ball as hard. Nobody's elevating the ball as much. Nobody's optimizing their batted ball profile the way he is. He's the only guy on your team that can do that. And I just think I'd rather lose whatever value you lose by him not catching, lose whatever value you lose if you have to put him in left field, or lose whatever value you have to lose to have him at DH, because you have to have him in your lineup. The lineup without Ivan Herrera, as we saw at times this year, as bad as it is right now, with Ivan Herrera hitting well and everyone else playing awfully, it is so much worse. It gets so much worse. He's the only guy in your lineup that can really, he's a tough out. He's the only guy in your lineup that pitchers actually have to think about when they pitch to, it feels like sometimes, I feel like he has that ability to kind of affect things, and he offers real lineup protection to other people around him. So, yeah.
I always go back to just the DH and how valuable that is to be able to kind of swap different guys in and out of that. The Cardinals did that really successfully in 2022. I know Pujols was a DH for a lot of the year, but him being so old, he would have to take days off, and they would let Goldie and Arenado refresh themselves in their MVP season to take that DH spot. They did that a lot in 2023 as well. I know they weren't as good then, but they were still pretty good collectively. I don't know. Obviously, the organization knows better than I do. I'm not there about what's causing Ivan Herrera's injuries, but one of them was in Boston, and he was running the bases.
Yeah.
It's not like Contreras, where he literally got hit by a bat while he was catching.
But I think the belief is that the wear and tear contributes to it,
right,
on the organization.
Yeah, I could see that, but I know why they moved Contreras off catcher, because there were 2 incidents like that. He got hit in the head by a backswing or something.
Yeah, JD Martinez.
Or they were just both they were just both like clearly catching related, and he like left the game while he was behind the plate. I don't know if Herrera was doing that, right? Like it might be like strength issues. It might be like Tyler O'Neill, like injuries that are maybe caused by catching, but those feel more avoidable to me. I don't know. Obviously, catcher is a risky position to play, but like, would I rather risk that with Herrera or see Pages just be awful behind the plate? I don't know. Like, there's give and take, obviously, with these kinds of things. But what bothers me is that they just haven't tried it. They tried it for a little bit, and then they just gave up, which I know the organization sees something in Pages that I clearly do not.
Okay, we got to talk about Pages too. He's been like fine this year.
He's been okay, but like he's not.
Pages is a slightly below average starting catcher at this point. Like he's good enough. The offense from Pages this year is fine. It's not good, but it's not awful.
He's not even like that good of a catcher. He preps. He game plans well. I get that, but also
they like pitching to him though. I think that
I don't care. Okay, if this Cardinals rotation was good, then sure, whatever, right? Okay, fine. But I don't care if the Sonny Gray is having a career worst year, other than maybe like a Yankee season that he had. Matthew Liberatore has probably been the only guy that has really exceeded expectations. McGreevy's been kind of what you expected.
Hey,
Galante has been awful. Michaelis has been awful. And Eric Fetty, who we thought was like a middle rotation starter, became like the worst pitcher in all of baseball. I don't care that Pedro Pages is good at game calling because clearly it's not even working. I don't care how comfortable these pitchers feel when they're not getting the job done.
That's funny. I mean,
I don't get that. Like we don't need that. We were all like really excited about Pages and his game calling once Gray threw like a complete game in Cleveland, almost had a perfect game. But you know what? Outside of that start, Gray really hasn't been that good. He's been really disappointing this year.
Really bad lately. Yeah.
And Gray loves pitching to Pages, but whatever. This is like the Contreras nonsense in 2023 with that awful rotation was like, oh, we don't like pitching to Contreras. Okay, whatever. It didn't get any better after you threw him under the bus. Like, I don't care. It doesn't matter that Pages is supposedly good at calling a game when your rotation is so bad.
Yeah. The rotation is really bad. I hear all those things, but I think there are two reasons why they don't need Ivan Herrera to catch. Number one is like, I'll say it again, Pages has been good enough. And number two is the Cardinals catching depth in the minor leagues is really, really good. Leonardo Bernal is going to factor in at some point next year. This is a guy that's appeared on top 100 prospect lists. I know a lot of people are really high on him right now. Jimmy Crooks is already in the fold, right? Like if you're catching Herrera, then you're going to have to cut bait with Pages. You're already cutting bait with Pozo, which is fine. I like the story. His time is done now in St. Louis, I think. But, you're already going to have to cut bait with Pages. You don't want to have to cut bait with Crooks in that sense. And Bernal's coming up. And at some point, they seem to believe that Reinel Rodriguez could be the future as well. I know he's a lot farther down, but he's been a fast riser already. The bat's really advanced. This is a guy that could be knocking on the door in 2 years.
Reinel Rodriguez is a guy that they're going to I understand that he's really, really exciting, but I would put so much money down that he will never catch a major league inning. They're just never going to.
You don't think so? No, he might. The glove work is interesting. He's pretty athletic. He's thrown out runners at a really high rate this year. I wouldn't totally bet against it. I think there's a chance, and they're going to catch him through the system. Like they've done.
What they're going to do?
They don't move guys.
They're going to promote Reinel Rodriguez, and they're going to be like, "Oh, his bat is so good that we can't risk catching him," because they've done that with Contreras, they've done that with Herrera, and it's like they're not going to do that with him.
That's fine with me, though. At the end of the day, if you have to protect your best offensive players by not catching them, do it. Other teams do it all the time, and I think you just have to have those guys in the lineup. I would rather have them in the lineup than not. And if that means they can't catch, so be it.
But I think having a great offensive catcher elevates your team so much.
Sure, it's
like
positional advantage, but like teams survive without good offensive catchers all the time.
Oh, I know.
And also, they only have to hit on one of these guys. And between Herrera, who still wants to catch next year, and maybe he will, although I kind of don't think so. But between him, Reinell in the future, and then Bernal and Crooks right now, they really only have to have one of those dudes be able to do it.
Yeah, like the Mariners would be so much worse if Cal Raleigh was a DH.
I don't even know.
There would just be so much worse.
I don't know if that's true, though. How much production do the Mariners get out of their DH spot? Like, not a ton.
I mean, they probably get to use it. I mean, they use it on him a lot because he has to take days off. But
yeah, they use it on him a ton.
They get to use it for other players. Like, that's so. I think there's a level of hitter that you need to be like to earn the full-time DH spot of a team, and I don't think Herrera is quite there, right? Like,
I think you're wrong about that. I think Herrera is
like 3 or 4 guys that. Oh, my audio is kind of lagging, but I think there's like 3 or 4 guys that really have that, and I don't think Herrera is one of them. It's like, I don't know. Let's think. Like Schwarber, Ohtani, and like Stanton. Alvarez.
Sure, but like Stanton's been
much worse than that caliber. Stanton's been great this season when he's been
healthy. This season he's been great. Stanton was also much worse than Herrera last year. Than Herrera's production this year last year. Stanton's had bad years in New York. Like, I don't think that's fair. And I think,
and then like now I guess for the Yankees, Judge, because his elbow's shot.
But like, if you're just talking about like perception, sure, Herrera's like, no one knows Herrera's name because he plays.
His OPS is also like, all of those guys are all OPSing like in the 900s or more.
Sure, but that's 5. That's like 3 teams. How many other teams out there have a DH? You know,
I don't think there's that many.
But everyone has to field the DH. And if you have the guy, if he's clearly the best guy on your team, then he earns the spot. That's how it goes.
Like a team like the Cardinals, they can put a Brendan Donovan at any position and then use the DH for that guy, right? Like that's what.
Yeah, no, it's
a lot
nice
of teams
to have
do stuff like that.
It's very nice to have flexibility. I'm just saying that I think Herrera is already good enough to force the Cardinals' hand and not have flexibility. He's clearly your best hitter, and I don't think it's close.
Yeah,
I mean, I think if Herrera hadn't been hurt at all this year, we'd be talking about him having 30 home runs. I think we'd be talking about, and I think he'd be more well known around the league. Like part of your argument, I feel like, is coming from the fact that nobody knows Herrera's name. Well, of course he's not a household name. He's young. He plays for St. Louis, and St. Louis sucks right now. So those are a lot of good reasons for nobody outside of St. Louis.
Also, all of the guys that have named except like Jordan this year have a much higher OPS than Herrera.
Yeah, but that's like
they're also hitting homers at an elite rate. Like Ohtani, Schwarber,
that's
and
like
Judge are all going to hit over 50 homers.
Absolutely, because you're naming 3 generational hitters.
Yeah, and that's what the DH is supposed to be for, right?
But Andrew, that's only 3 teams. There are 27 other teams out there that have to survive. And I think this is a good point here. Like, you think about the fact that other teams have been fine with bad catchers. Houston won multiple World Series and went to the ALCS every year with Martin Maldonado back there. Like it's possible.
He was actually a good game caller, and their pitching was good. So
yeah, their pitching was great. I'm not saying that, and I'm not saying that Pedro Baez brings what he brings on that side of the ball. But Pedro Baez is a better hitter than he was, and you don't have to have Herrera back there. Is my point. And I think that I also think left field is still a viable option for him next year. I'd love to see what he looks like in left field in spring training next year.
Yeah, I do want to, like, if they're not going to catch him, I don't think he should. I think they should try him in the outfield. I think
they absolutely need to.
They can't just go into the offseason and be like, Herrera's going to be our DH next year, because that doesn't make sense.
Yeah, and I think that's doing a disservice to Herrera too. It caps his earning potential 100%. I think they should do that. All right, well, we've got a few more guys we can move through a little quicker here. I think I guess for Herrera, the verdict, like, smashed it out of the park, and I think the team
spent too much time talking about the catcher situation. I feel like it's not that important, but it is important.
Well, Victor Scott is probably worth mentioning here.
We're not going to talk about Burleson?
We can.
You just don't like Burleson.
Burleson's older. We can talk about Burleson. I think Victor Scott's important, though, because I've seen a lot of people suggesting that he's not going to be the starter next year. And I want to put that to bed.
Victor Scott has the most B-WAR on the team. It's not pretty. There's not a lot of guys on this Cardinals team with a lot of B-WAR.
Yeah.
It's like really bad, actually.
Scott gets to it.
Victor Scott has 2.4 B WAR, and that's the most on the team. That's terrible. That's an indictment on the rest of the team, but Scott gets it done B WAR wise, and I don't know, like his defense is really good,
sensational,
and I don't really like. Okay, first of all, I don't know how many of these people are, but there have to be so many people that think Victor Scott will not be the starting center fielder next year, that think Jordan Walker is like our Lord and Savior, right? Okay, and then do you want me to read the slash lines of Victor Scott compared to Jordan Walker?
He's better than Jordan Walker.
He's been better than Jordan Walker offensively by 10% OPS plus wise, 74 OPS plus. That's not great. But if you added stolen bases to total bases, I'm sure the slugging goes up by quite a bit. He has 32 stolen bases this year. He's only been caught 3 times. He's really good on the bases. And I think he's only going to get better, right? He's only 24. We haven't necessarily seen those strides this year, but a lot of these players, we made the assumption that with more time, Jordan Walker will get better. Well, he hasn't. With time, Nolan Gorman's going to get better. Kind of, but not really. Alec Burleson's gotten better with time, but a lot of these guys kind of haven't.
Scott did.
And they've been in the league for a couple of years. Victor Scott, this is his first full season in the major leagues. And last year, he played 53 games, but he really wasn't supposed to be up at all. Tommy Edman was supposed to start in center field. He got hurt. And then it was Dylan Carlson, and then he got hurt. And then he came back and he was terrible. And then it was Victor Scott for a little bit because they're like, well, he's the third guy. And then he wasn't good. So they went to Siani. And then Siani got hurt. And so then Victor Scott really was option D for center field. He wasn't.
Yeah, even worse than that, because I think they would have kept Dylan Carlson around or something if they could have. I think they might not have traded Tyler O'Neill if they knew all these other things were going to go wrong.
And Lars Nootbaar was also a center field, and he was hurt.
No, he was option 6 or 7.
Yeah, he was not supposed to be up, so we're not even going to count 2024. We're not even going to look at that. This basically is Victor Scott's first season in the major leagues. And he's been better than Walker offensively. And he's probably, if Mason Winn wasn't on the team, he'd be the best defender.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. He's fantastic out there. He and Mason Winn are both on the short list of probably the 10 best defensive players in all of baseball right now. Scott has so much range. He has great instincts out there too. He gets really good jumps. All the time it happens where Victor Scott makes a play in a game that just looks routine. And when you go back and look at the numbers, it's wow, that was actually a hell of a play. I don't know if you guys, people in our chat, I don't know if you follow the Warmonger account on Twitter, but he provides a lot of great stats. And stuff
he's so fast that he doesn't have to dive for balls that most people would have to dive for.
Yeah, and the point is Jordan Walker will dive for a ball and make a grab, and it gets posted, and people say this is a great play, but it came with a jump that was -6 feet above average, right? And it came with closing speed that's not the same, and so he had to make up for it. Victor Scott will just casually run through a ball, and because he's so fast and so athletic, we're so used to it, you don't realize he's moving 30 feet per second, which is elite. He got a jump that was 5.5 feet above average, and that ball had a 20% catch probability, especially, based on where he's positioned. He likes to play a little deeper sometimes because he can get to stuff. It's just incredible. And by the time the camera pans to, it's a great play, usually, if the guy has to run hard to catch it. And by the time the camera pans, he's already sprinting. That means he's got a great jump. And I feel you see that all the time with Victor Scott, all the time, where he makes these incredible plays look so easy. And when Victor Scott does lay out, it's a ball that almost nobody else in the league is getting to. Maybe PCA. But Scott has been just about as good as Pico Armstrong's been in the field this year, which is pretty impressive. It's pretty damn impressive. So, yeah, I want to put the Scott's not going to start next year rumors to bed. It's not true. Victor Scott's going to be the guy next year.
Who's going to start over him? Church hasn't been good either.
Yeah, well, people want to see Nootbaar in the middle because of the bat, and I get it. But also, Nootbaar's been marginally better than Scott this year, first off. Second, while Scott's been hurt, Nootbaar's been hurt way more, both this year and in his career. And more importantly than anything, Nootbaar's defense isn't what Scott's is anyway. Scott is so great out there defensively. He really does get to that value, and he's so young. I still believe there's more in that bat. I still believe there's a way for Victor Scott to produce at a league average level, which would make him a 4.5 WAR player, like that's super valuable, right? He's not going to have the ceiling of a PCA who goes out there and although he's been really bad in the second half, which has been really nice. But he's been out there and he's got, still probably 135 WRC plus on the year to go with the same level defense as Scott. But he can easily be a similar version to what Winn was this year in the outfield. And the Cardinals have already shown that they like those players. That's a super valuable player, and that's a winning player. The Cardinals had John Jay produce that way for them for the better part of a decade, and they did a lot of winning with John Jay in the outfield. Victor Scott can be even better out there. So big believer in him. I think he's got to be the guy. I think there's no chance. Other than those guys, we should talk about Alec Burleson. I know you're right. Alec Burleson's had a great year this year. Very good to see. Although I think it's tough because Burleson is constrained in the same way that Herrera is constrained. He's constrained in the same way that Contreras is constrained, right? Where you're talking about a guy who's definitely a bat first player, but he has, I would argue, less versatility than those guys even. Not that
he can play 2 positions.
Yeah, but Herrera could play first if you needed him to.
I don't think so.
You could figure.
We've never seen him at first.
So many other catchers have made the move. I have every belief that if Contreras wasn't on the team next year and the Cardinals needed to play Herrera at first, they could figure it out. I think the outfield's much harder to play. And we know that, well, we don't know if Herrera can do it yet. We know Burleson can do it fine. He's been better out there than he's been given credit for this year. He's been like pretty close to league average in the field. He's definitely below, but he's better than Jordan Walker. But on the season now, Burleson across 453 at bats. So we are talking about pretty much a whole season or a little under a whole season, but a regular's workload. He's got 17 home runs, hitting 283 with a 120 OPS plus, 785 OPS coming into play today. So about 20% above league average, which is great stuff. He's been really good. I still think he's a full tier below Herrera though, offensively.
Oh yeah.
And I think if you have to prioritize one guy, but he also could get you something on the trade market, which I think the Cardinals are going to have to look at this year.
You just don't like Burleson, but
no, it's not true.
Yeah, I mean, he's been one of the bigger surprises because he really was just not good last year in the second half. I didn't really know what to expect from him going into this season. I thought Gorman should get playing time over him. Obviously, now I think both of them should get playing time. But he's a guy that you need to be a pure hitter, and he is. He's maybe not going to hit that many homers, which, by the way, I watched our bold predictions episode back just to see if I would give you credit if he ended up with less than 21 homers. You didn't say that homer thing in the episode, so that does not count.
That was what I said. That was they made me qualify it. I qualified it.
No, you just said that Burleson. You had a really bad feeling about Burleson. You've had the same feeling about guys like Ozuna and.
I did have a bad feeling, and I'm glad I was wrong.
But anyway, he wasn't terrible. He's been really good, and he's been making a lot better swing decisions. Contact has been a lot better. Strikeout rate's been a little bit up, but the walk rate's also been up to cancel that out. The ISO has been higher. I feel like he's elevating the ball a little bit more. Maybe the homers aren't quite there, but he was really hot for like a month last year, hitting a lot of homers, and then kind of fell apart. I would much rather have this version of Burleson than the version we had last year, if I'm being honest. And I'm happy that he's continued his production into the second half of the season. And I think
this is the most damage he's ever done when he hits the ball.
Yeah. Other than Herrera, this is probably the biggest win from the whole group of young guys that we've just talked about.
Unless you count relievers, I'm fine with that.
Yeah, we can also go pitching. There's McGreevy and Liberatore, but maybe we should save that for another day because we've already gone over the other. Sponson and O'Brien, yes. O'Brien made me upset yesterday, but whatever.
Leahy.
Leahy. I mean, the bullpen's been great. The rotation, the two young guys. Well, actually, there's 3 young guys in the rotation. One of those guys is firmly an F tier. But
yeah, we can talk about them another time. We're already over time. But
but Burleson's really impressed me this season, and
yeah,
I think he's earned himself a spot. Victor Scott obviously has also been very impressive, but I think I expected more, like good defense from Victor Scott than I did. Like Burleson would be this productive of a hitter, if you know what I mean. Like obviously Scott has been a better defender than Burleson has been a hitter, but
Yeah.
And if I had to pick, I guess I would probably go with Scott. Like if I had to pick between the two, like who would I build around for the future? But like Burleson, I feel like showed more of his upside than Scott did, because Scott still has a lot more room to grow at the bat. Like if he gets to like a 85, 90 WRC plus hitter, then he becomes, such a productive player. He becomes probably one of the better center fielders in all of baseball, just in general. But
yeah, I mean, because I'm with you. I think Burleson definitely was closer to his ceiling this year than Scott was, and the production's pretty similar. But yeah, I mean, Burleson did some really good things this year, like you said. He elevated more than he did last year. His air rate was up 2.5%, which is really good. So he hit 4% more fly balls than he did last year, which is great. He was pulling this stuff too more often, which was really good. But also at the same time, he's still not doing that at like an elite rate or even, a well above league average rate. And so that leads me to believe that this is the best season you're going to get out of Burleson offensively. And we've talked about that with Kareem as well. And the batted ball profile being the way it is, it's just hard to see him as a player who's going to hit 30 home runs. Maybe he's up around 20 again next year, and the line drives mean he's going to hit for average, and some of those are going to find the corner in the gap, and some of those are going to go for extra bases. But I don't think you're talking about a guy that can consistently hit the ball out of the park the way the Cardinals really want these guys to. But still,
I'm not saying that he has that profile, but like definitely a good supplemental piece. Like if the Cardinals built a roster that was like that had a good lineup, which
they have not.
Probably a guy that bats like fifth or sixth for you, and really like lengthens that lineup. He gets a really good bat.
If Burleson's your 5 or 6 hitter, you're doing some things really well.
Yeah. But right now he's batting third for you, which, fair enough because there's nobody else on this team. But,
yeah.
Ideally, you build guys around that in like a year or two. You have JJ, in the middle of that order, Herrera. Maybe you develop a guy. Maybe there's a guy we're not even talking about. Maybe Raniel Rodriguez has a Juan Soto arc and he's wins Rookie of the Year next year. I don't know. I'm just kidding. That would be crazy. But, he's definitely a good supplemental piece. Probably the best one offensively that we've talked about. There's also Donovan and Nootbaar that I don't really think qualify in this conversation. They're not really.
Yeah, I know they're beyond it. They're veterans. They're honestly like close to free agency at this point.
Yeah, they're about to be ARP too. So,
yeah. Well, I think that gives you a pretty good idea of how we feel about the runway season. So to recap real quick, we said the organization did their job as far as Gorman and Walker go. Gorman mostly did his job. Walker absolutely did not, and it's going to reflect the way they feel about him moving into next year. The next group of players, I would say you could clump Herrera and Winn together. And I would say those are two guys that, again, this year exceeded expectations, did everything they needed to. And the organization is fully investing in them as core players. I think after that, there's another tier of guys like Scott and Burleson, where you're looking at these players. And I don't know if fans are totally on board with them moving forward next year, but I think the organization's ready to invest in these guys too.
I think fans are definitely on board with Burleson. I think it's just you that's
not Scott. They're not on board with Scott, though, and they should be, because Scott had a really good year. And I think he will be the starting center fielder next year. And I think Alec Burleson is going to be a regular in the lineup next year too, unless they traded him, which I think could be intriguing. But again, we'll have to wait on that. There's plenty to talk about on the pitching side, especially in the bullpen, some guys that broke out, but we can save that for another episode and talk about that as well. And it was a little different coming into the year anyway, how they felt about the pitching and whatnot. The biggest failure this year is that you only got to learn anything about McGreevy and Liberatore. We learned nothing about a Quinn Matthews. I know injuries and ineffectiveness are part of that, but we learned nothing about him. Injuries to Tekoa Roby, more injuries to Tink Hens, injuries to Cooper Jerpy. We learned nothing about those guys either. So that really sucks.
Well, on the Palante might be terrible. So,
Yeah, we did. Palante has been so much worse this year. And it's not a luck thing. He just has not been good. So that sucks. All right. Well, the Cardinals won today. The Mets also won. They're still like 4 games out. I guess technically it's still possible. It looks like the Reds are about to lose. As we were speaking, they blew a 3-0 lead and now we're down 7-3.
Whatever. I'm not worried about the Mets. If we're thinking about wildcard race, I'm not worried about the Reds or the Giants because if the Cardinals take care of business against them, they'll take care of business against them.
About the Diamondbacks and the Mets. Yeah, well, look, hopefully the Cardinals are actually in it again in like a week when we get to talk to you guys again. That could be really fun. And we are hoping to watch some games on assists. So look, if the Cardinals play well, could be big. We could be doing that with you guys at some point soon. So whatever the case, thanks for joining us today. If you have any questions you want us to address next time, feel free to tweet at us or comment to this. Please share this with your friends, like and subscribe. We love doing this. We want to keep doing this. So thank you so much, and we'll see you guys next time.
Thanks, Jordan.
Thanks, Jordan.